Chapter 301. The golden dragon had finished off the guards. Now, he soared into the sky, surveying the crowd below. By the way, there were an overwhelming number of spirit stones here. Meanwhile, the monstrous frog, the overseer of this place, was lifted high into the air by the divine tree. The frog growled and threatened that if the divine tree dared to take him hostage, Lord Dom would never forgive it. No sooner had he finished speaking than a thunderous punch slammed straight into his face, crushing his large, bloated features inward. This fool didn't understand one thing, and the divine tree needed to knock some sense into him. The divine tree was here to settle scores with Dom. Now, the divine tree demanded answers to its questions in exchange for sparing the frog's life. Far away, in the elf forest, the commotion here had caused a ripple of disturbance. Panis had been captured by the nature god. On this side, however, the elves seemed uneasy, unsure whether the new arrivals were enemies or allies. As for the overseer, he had been beaten to a pulp, fresh blood pouring from his mouth as he struggled to breathe with his shattered lungs. His body was tightly constricted by roots, his bones and internal organs nearly crushed. He confessed that Lord Dom had ordered an increase in spirit stone collection. It turned out he had been acting under orders, but surely, he should at least know what the stones were being collected for? As expected, the frog revealed the truth. It was to prepare for the upcoming Great War against the Blue Planet. With this massive amount of spirit stones, they could amplify spiritual power and gain a tremendous advantage on the battlefield. The divine tree then asked how many more fortresses like this lay ahead. The frog whispered that there were 3, possibly more, though he wasn't entirely sure. Finally, he begged the divine tree to release him. The divine tree spoke coldly, saying that the divine tree agreed to release him, but they didn't know how. Damn it! The frog had no idea who the divine tree referred to were. This didn't seem good at all. It was the roots. The roots began to tighten and flipped the frog onto his back. Then, with a loud thud, they slammed him hard into the ground. The divine tree tossed a sharp knife, which landed firmly in the ground. They resumed their journey. The golden dragon addressed the divine tree as Commander, and asked if they were heading straight for Dom now. But the divine tree had other plans. He decided they would first visit the remaining 3 strongholds, a decision that surprised the golden dragon. Meanwhile, the frog was urging the villagers to lift him up and set him upright. However, someone had already picked up the knife. Help him? Not a chance. Look, this was the perfect opportunity to repay him for his injustice and cruelty. And so began the scene of torment and retribution against the frog. The next stronghold had an ancient appearance, with the dark, eerie architectural style of the undead, didn't it? Inside, a demon spider rushed to report to Dom that 3 out of the 4 spirit stone gathering points had been destroyed. 3 lords had been killed, and all the spirit stones had been taken. Dom's eyes flashed as he asked if the final slave city was still intact. The demon spider reported that it was, but judging by the direction of the intruder's journey, it was likely their next target. The demon spider believed that to have conquered 3 strongholds in such a short time, the opponent must be incredibly powerful. Dom immediately thought of that elf. It could only be him. However, Dom couldn't leave his current location for now. Dom ordered the demon spider to take 3 of his personal guards and head out. There was no way he could allow the same fate to befall the last slave city. Dom felt utterly powerless. Because of a command from the ancient tree, he couldn't leave this city. Seething with anger, he crushed his stone throne with his hands. Meanwhile, at the slave city, the population mostly consisted of slaves. They were brought there after wars, enduring long periods of hunger and suffering. Today, yet another person had died. Who was he? No one even remembered. Food supplies had long been seized by the city lord. The cooks were forced to prepare enormous feasts and massive jugs of wine to offer the city lord. If they delayed, they would be mercilessly killed. The strongest among them had to carry out trays of leftover food like this, which had to be discarded and not shared with anyone. Even the cooks lamented, unsure how much longer they could continue such grueling work, as the city's food supply had already run dry. Meanwhile, the city lord was devouring food like a starved beast. The goblet he drank from was the size of an entire house, and if the wine pourer accidentally spilled a single drop, damn it, they'd be beaten to death on the spot. The city lord roared that food was precious and couldn't be wasted. After all, the people in the city had nothing to eat. Damn, as if he actually cared about his citizens. He even lectured them, saying it took an enormous amount of rice to brew that wine, and this glutton was none other than Kasim, Dom's son. He devoured food like a madman, constantly urging them to bring more. Suddenly, someone entered and presented him with a letter from the great Dom. Kasim opened it to find that his father had warned him to be cautious of enemy attacks. I wonder who his mother is. Probably some old witch with a long, wart-covered nose, and 1,000 years old. But just then, roots unexpectedly shot up from beneath his dining table. The cooks were astonished, though none of them were harmed. They were baffled. What were these roots? The entire palace of Kasim was now tightly entwined by the roots of the divine tree. At the same time, the castle was torn to shreds, reduced to dust and sand, but Kasim remained, boldly declaring there was nothing to fear. Even if a few pests had snuck in to cause havoc, he claimed, he didn't feel a thing.